always prefer to follow Barbara Streisand whenever I speak of anything.
Really setting yourself up for success.
Didn't know about that, but hi, it's me.
Yes. All right, Alli, so thank you so much for being here with us today. So you are a great example of our theme, Be Bold, this year. You were a stay-at-home mom and became a trailblazer in both the salon and the business world. So back then, when you were thinking about starting Drybar, what types of things were you considering, and how did you get this idea, which, by the way, was named one of Entrepreneur Magazine's 100 Brilliant Ideas?
Well, I think like most great businesses, Drybar was really started out of personal necessity. I grew up in South Florida, and as a little girl, I was really obsessed with my curly, frizzy hair that I couldn't control. And, it was one of those things that I felt like when I was growing up and deciding what I was going to do with my life, being a hairstylist wasn't something I was really considering. And, when it was time to go to college, I was very lost and didn't know what I wanted to do. And all my friends had ideas for majors. And, I really bumped around for a while trying to figure out what my passion was. And when I made the decision to go to beauty school all those years ago, much to my parents' chagrin, it was really following my passion and what I loved. And I felt like, I could do something really great with this skill because it was what I was most passionate about. And again, it was a tough decision to make because my parents didn't really support the idea and felt like, they wanted me to do something bigger and better. And I just always felt like there was something out there for me. And it was really about following my passion and figuring out something that was going to make me happy. And, as a kid, it's hard to do that because you are trying to please your parents and you want to, find success. But, obviously, I showed them.
So when you set out to open the first Drybar, what exactly were your expectations? Did you ever predict it would turn into what it is today?
Not at all. I mean, it was really, I had gotten married. I raised, well, I'm still raising 2 young kids. And, I became a stay-at-home mom and really thought that that's what I wanted to do and just be with my kids at home. And after 5 years of that, I felt kind of got that itch to get back out there and do something for myself, and my ambition was kind of creeping in. And I decided to start a mobile blow dry business because at this point I'd been doing hair professionally for 15 years. And so I decided to start a mobile blow dry business, and that was really just to get out of the house, get away from the kids for a few hours, and just do something for myself, earn a little extra cash. And what I discovered in that time, which is really why I feel like everything kind of happens for a reason, was there wasn't a great place for women to get a blowout. I was going to women's homes and charging $40, and as you guys probably know, that's pretty inexpensive to go to someone's home. But it was more about, again, getting away from the kids and doing something for myself. So during that time, I realized that, there's really nowhere for these women to go, or women in general to go, for a great blowout at an affordable price. It just didn't exist. Somewhere along, it's like when you think back to our mothers and our grandmothers' generation, they used to get their hair coiffed at the hair salon. Yeah. And it was this social experience, this thing that just kind of went away at some point. And so I realized during operating my mobile business, I was getting so busy so fast that I was like, there's got to be a place for women to go for just a blowout. And this was like in 2009, and any woman that I talked to about this idea was like, that's the greatest idea.
Yes.
You should do it immediately. And any man I talked to about the idea was like, what the hell is a blowout? So it was definitely an interesting idea. And what's ironic is now that we're almost 10 years in and we've obviously had a lot of success, so many women say to me like, oh, I had this idea, I wish I had done it. And, I feel like I was very uniquely perfect for this role and what I'm doing because I had spent most of my childhood and, becoming an adult figuring out how to do a blowout. So anyways, when I was operating the mobile business is when I went to my brother, who's bald, by the way, and said, I think that there's an opportunity here to turn my mobile business into a brick and mortar. And of course he was like, really? Like, how do you make this business work? At the time we were, charging $35. And I used to sit up at night thinking, if we do, 10 blowouts an hour, how do we make this business work? And And it was daunting. It was a really daunting idea because we really needed the volume. We really needed to do a lot of blowouts to make this business work. But I just felt in my gut that there was an opportunity here, and certainly we could try it. There was no harm in trying it in one location. And at the time I was living in Santa Monica, and Brentwood seemed very central to like where all my clients were. And so, we just took the plunge and decided to open a location, which was in 2010 and in the middle of a recession. So I was getting advised against all of it. But I felt very passionate that this would work, at least in LA, for the clients that I had already known and on a small scale, and never could have imagined it would turn into what it has.
It's incredible. So back then, you mentioned you started the business with your brother and other business partners. So they were both men. What was the dynamic like between the three of you? Who was calling the shots? How did that all come about?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is kind of staying in your lane and knowing what you're good at. My brother is the business and side of things. And so he's the one who's putting spreadsheets together and making sure like we're not losing money and all of that, where my ex-husband, Cameron, was the creative, and he's in charge of everything from branding and design. And my expertise was hair. And so there's an innate trust when you're working with family and bald men that really, that helped keep us very focused on what we were good at. And I think that's kind of the key to a great business partnership, is everyone kind of knowing their strengths and weaknesses. If it wasn't for my brother, there's no chance the business would have grown, which is why, I know from what like Barbara was saying, and we have come along, there's a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of great men out there too. And I, happen to have some great partners that are men. And it's really been a team effort. I mean, I get a lot of the glory in the business, but it really is the three of us working very hard together and doing the things that we're all really good at individually. So I think that's kind of how it's worked, and it certainly comes with its challenges.
Definitely.
I mean, a lot of people think I'm crazy for working with my brother and family, but it's also, there's this innate trust there that's really comforting.
Yeah. Right. So how soon into the first Drybar being open did you have a moment that you were like, this is going to be big, like we expand? Yeah, what was that?
Well, it was like minutes when we opened. I mean, it was so crazy how women, and hopefully a lot of women in this room have been to Drybar, yes? Yes? It was crazy how in the beginning, I mean, we were so busy so fast. We had so much demand and so much less supply. I mean, I didn't even, if you've been to our Brentwood shop, it's 8 chairs. And my brother was like, don't bring in too many stylists on the first day. I was like, okay. Shouldn't have listened to him. And we were so short-staffed. I was doing blowouts at the first station. I didn't hire a manager. I was running the desk and doing hair. And it was like the most intoxicating thing ever, because women were just, I mean, there was lines out the door. It was unbelievable. And having worked in hair salons a lot of my life, that's just not the norm on the first day of a business like this. So it was really overwhelming and amazing, and we were all like crying, and we were like, holy shit, we're onto something, you know? And we were, and we realized very, very quickly we had lightning in a bottle, and we had to keep going with this. And it took about 6 months to get to the second store. And then, from there, my brother was actually running another company at the time, and I was like, you have to quit that other thing and come do this with me full time, because we're really onto something, and we can't meet all the demand that we currently have. So it was a really exciting time, and we knew very quickly that we had stumbled upon something very special.
Amazing. So in order to expand, I know you sought out private equity, a industry that is typically more male-dominated. This is a company geared especially for women that you mentioned some men don't quite get or know. So what was that experience like, trying to pitch your business and get them to come on board with you?
It was really challenging, and it was, a bit of a dog and pony show with my brother and I, talking to all these different private equity groups, and it was talking to men. And again, it was that same conversation of like, my daughter likes blowouts, but I don't really get it, and I don't understand why this would work and how this could be scalable. And it was very intimidating, and that was years ago that we started raising money, and I felt very shy to ask questions, and it took me a little while to get my footing in that space with these like Harvard, graduates and MBAs, and I was like this kid who graduated from beauty school. But I was like, I think we're really onto something, and there's a really big opportunity here. and I got more and more comfortable with it. But we turned down a lot of money in those early days because we felt very strongly like we didn't just want to take a check. We knew this was a marriage, and we knew that these were people we were going to have to work with, and we wanted to make sure they understood the vision. There was a lot of, oh, well, you can sell them this and you can do that. We have about 100 women who come into our stores every day, and now we have 120 locations. I realize it's a big opportunity to do a lot more, but I always felt very kind of protective and guarded of our clients, and I didn't want to be selling them lipstick or lashes or all these other things that as an investor, they, saw a pretty big golden opportunity because we had so many women at our disposal, but I felt very strongly about not doing that. So it was finding the right partner that really understood my vision and didn't want to try to change it. And we've have 2 private equity groups that we are partners with that are amazing and really did understand and have, really helped us but not gotten in our way of the original vision.
That's great. So now that it's 2019, and we're going to talk about your new business in just a minute, but what does a typical day look like for you as a co-founder of this incredible company?
I mean, it's interesting how my life has changed and evolved so much. And in the early days, it was like I did every single thing from sweeping the floor, to payroll, to running the shop, to doing blowouts. I mean, you named it. And I think that that's an important thing to do as a business owner, is to have done every single job. And that's really what I've done. And as we've grown and scaled, we scaled up the business, and we hired people who were frankly smarter than me and us, and that, knew how to, run and scale a business that we were growing into. And I'd say for the first 5 years, it was still very much me in the trenches. And now, we have a pretty massive team. We have a professional CEO. We have, about 150 people in our corporate headquarters now that are really doing all the stuff I used to do. So my day-to-day has changed, and it's really nice because it took me a while to get really comfortable, delegating, the responsibility, and then eventually you do get more and more comfortable. And for me, it's everything from overseeing product development to doing press to, checking in on the stores. Every day is kind of a new adventure now. But it really just kind of depends on what's happening with the business. But it's a really great time for me personally because I've built this company. We've built such a great team that I feel like if I say it's a well-oiled machine, it's gonna all fall apart tomorrow.
We won't jinx anything.
But it's pretty good, yeah.
Awesome. So you don't seem like someone with a lot of free time. What made you want to start another business? It's called Squeeze, and it's opening here in Studio City, very close. So what made you want to do that? And tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, it's similar to Drybar. My brother and I have felt like there is kind of a hole in the marketplace in the massage world. And as massage connoisseurs our whole lives, we felt like there's really not a great place. There's some discount chains around, and there's, one-off businesses, and there's spas, but there's not a place that feels really good both aesthetically and the experience. And with Drybar, so much of our success is built on the experience that we create. It's not just about blowouts. It's, how we make you feel and how the shop is set up and the customer service and how clean it is and all of the things. And so we wanted to do that for massage. And the massage concept we're starting is called Squeeze. And it's being designed by our same architects that designed Drybar. But I'd say the big differentiator is the technology piece of it, because like Postmates or Uber, where you do everything on an app, that's how it will work too. So you book your massage on the app, you book all your preferences, you can see reviews of the stylist, and you can preset all your, whether you like oil or lotion, or you like male or female, or you like, certain parts of your body massage, not other parts, like anything you could possibly think of. And when you're getting a massage, and you're laying on a table getting a massage, and then you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to tell them this, or this isn't right, or the lighting's not right, or I'm too cold, or the music's not right, all these things. So that's all preset in this app that you manually go in and do. So when you walk in, your room is preset, you have this seamless experience. And the best part is when you walk out, because you pay and do everything on the app, you just literally walk out. So you don't have to sit there and talk to somebody or wait in line or wait for them to find your information when your face is all scrunched and you're in this blissful state.
It's awkward sometimes.
And it is very awkward. And it can really kind of ruin this nice, peaceful place that you're in. So that's really what we felt like was missing, a really cohesive experience where everyone's trained a certain way and the customer service is amazing and you have this beautiful experience of just walking out, floating on a cloud versus what you normally encounter in a massage place. So,
exciting.
Yeah. So we're very excited about it. And now we can serve men too. Historically, only women come to Drybar. So it's a much bigger opportunity.
Awesome. So what are your goals with the new company? Do you see it expanding so quickly like Drybar, or what are you?
I do. I think there's a pretty big opportunity, potentially bigger than Drybar. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. Our former head of marketing, Brittany Driscoll, is the CEO of our new company, which I'm very proud to have a female CEO. And we think there's a lot of opportunities to very quickly expand this. We're kind of right now talking about how that's going to happen. We think there might be a really great franchise model, so we can, once we kind of figure it out and work out all the kinks, that we can, open this up to women or men, across the country who want to take what we've built and model it and continue to open more. So I think we will, assuming all goes well, knock on wood, we will expand very quickly.
Awesome. So in addition to Drybar, you've also really created a brand for yourself as Alli Webb, a business mogul, a force to be reckoned with. So was that intentional? Did that just happen a little bit? And how do you balance that with Drybar and Squeeze?
Well, I think Drybar has kind of given me that opportunity, and the way my life has changed because of Drybar has been very humbling and very exciting. And I think that there is an opportunity for me to kind of take advantage of the position that I have built for myself. And I recently launched a podcast with my brother where I'm talking to other entrepreneurs, and really the impetus of that was that I'm constantly asked by other women who are starting businesses, like, how did you do it? How do you raise money? How do you hire? All of these things. And I felt like I really wanted to give back. So that's why I started a podcast. So I'm exploring some other kind of personal opportunities. Cool. And I've learned a lot about business, about people. And I think that there's still other things that I'm looking
Very cool.
to learn. Yeah.
Nice. So on that note as well, what advice do you have for women who are looking to start their own business?
Well, first and foremost, just start. I feel like that's the hardest part. A lot of women I talk to, feel like I have this great idea, but I don't know, there's just too many things I don't know. And you don't know what you don't know when you're starting a business. If I knew how hard it was going to be to start Drybar and all the obstacles I was going to run into, I don't know if I would have done it. But you can't let that get in your way. And so I think when you're considering starting a business, you kind of have to a little bit throw caution to the wind and take a risk, and a calculated risk, and save up some money before you quit your job. But then get yourself in a position where you can be not getting a paycheck every week or whatever it is. And surround yourself with great people. I think for me, like I mentioned, Drybar wouldn't be as big as it is or what it is without great partners. And not only for the fact that they know things that you don't, but also for that support and that sounding board of someone that you really trust to be able to bounce ideas off of. But yeah, I feel like, life is too short to do something that you don't love. And if there's, something that you want to do, and I always felt like when we were starting Drybar, if it didn't work, nobody was going to die. We would all get back up on our feet and we could go get jobs. There's always something else that is out there. So I think it's, just being okay with risk and not, without, what is it? No risk, no reward.
Yep.
So that's my philosophy.
Nice. So if you could go back to 2010 when you were first starting Drybar, is there anything you would do differently?
I get asked that question a lot, and I think that there were definitely mistakes that we made, but I really don't think so. I think that we learned a lot from the mistakes. There was definitely a lot of naiveness when we were raising money and figuring out, equity and that sort of thing, which I've learned a lot about now. So I may have done some of that differently then, but hindsight is 2020. We didn't know that Drybar was going to be as big and successful as it became. Everybody was kind of hedging at that point. So in retrospect, I may have done that a little differently, but I don't regret any of the decisions we made.
And so one thing that I love about Drybar, and I know probably a lot of women in here too, is that, you say you're not just selling a blowout, you're really giving confidence and happiness to women. Why do you think that's so important?
Well, I think it's the number one driver of our business is the way we make women feel. And I wish I could say I knew that from the very beginning, but I didn't. I really very quickly discovered it though when I would see the way a woman would walk into Drybar, with her hair in a bun and very serious and all business, and then when she would get her hair washed and then watching a chick flick, charging her phone, doing whatever, and we spin her around for the big reveal, and she just lights up, and you're like, well, it's pretty powerful. And then when you see her like walking out, like looking in every mirror, and there's this amazing confidence.
Yeah.
And I truly didn't realize it until I started to see it. And I remember sitting at the front desk in Brentwood, and like a woman came up to check out, and I was like, where did she come from? Like, I didn't even recognize her.
A whole different person.
A whole different person. It's like a persona, and it's a change that happens. And and I think that like I used to feel like we weren't, I wasn't changing the world opening a blow dry bar, but I very quickly realized after, the hundreds and thousands of notes that I've gotten from women who are like, I don't go to a board meeting without a blowout because it gives me that extra confidence. Or if I have a really important job interview or a date, or I just want to feel good about myself, I go to Drybar, and I'm like, it really was like, wow, like that is pretty amazing and powerful stuff. And so that's why we've expanded as quickly as we have, because we want to give that to women everywhere. And, and I feel like that is something that, women love. I mean, women tell me that it's changed their lives. And I mean, it's like the most humbling thing you can ever hear. So I'm really so proud of what we've built and what I think we are, doing for women.
Because I think when you go into a Drybar, it's like everything I would want to be there with, it's already there and it's set up for me. So how did you really tap into setting up this experience it's so much more than a blowout for your customers?
I think it's because I'm like part client, part stylist. And because I've been a stylist for so many years, I know how stylists feel and what they want in terms of their feeling comfortable in their place of work. And I'm also the pickiest client you'll ever meet. So, I felt like if I was a client, here's all the things that I would want it to be. And so I felt like I have this unique point of view of how I wanted the shops to run, the vision I wanted for the shops. And again, it's why I think we've had so much success, because I knew what I was doing. This is the one thing I knew really well. And so I think that was where, and that's where I think when you feel like you really are, understand something, know something, have confidence in something, it's when you will see success. And for me, it was like I had this very specific vision. And I also learned from my mobile business that I was doing women's hair like in their living room or their kitchen when I was doing blowouts, and they weren't sitting in front of a mirror. And I very quickly realized that them not sitting in front of a mirror, and as women, when we sit in front of a mirror, we like pick ourselves apart, and we're like, oh, I look tired of this and that. And when the mirror was gone, and in this case, in Drybar, you sit and watch a chick flick, it just kind of takes the pressure off of you as a client, and off of our stylists too, where they can kind of do their job. And then when we turn you around for the big reveal, it's great. If you want something changed, of course.
Yeah, so with so many locations and such a strong vision, how do you balance like keeping control of something that is your brainchild and you do so well versus having to delegate and people in all these different locations around the country taking over?
That's such a hard part of this business, and something that has kept me up at night. And I still read all the reviews, and I still kind of obsess over what people are saying. And quality control is the hardest part. And when, especially because we have clients, probably many of you, who go from New York to LA to Dallas to, wherever. And, my goal was that you kind of don't know what city you're in when you're sitting in a Drybar, that the experience is the same. So there's such a robust training program in place, from the way we train and do ongoing training for our stylists and our bartenders and managers. And it's like, that's not a well-oiled machine. That is something that takes so much work and so many people to keep the trains running in that department, because it is a challenging, and it's something that you have to constantly nurture in a business of our size, making sure that things are the way they're supposed to be in location to location. And the great thing about it is I have I hear from clients all the time, and we've always had this very like, please give us your feedback. And as much as it hurts to get negative feedback, if a client emails me and says, I was in a location and this happened, I'm like, oh, well, we got to get on that. And where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's probably something going on. And so we pay really close attention to that. And we have a lot of parameters set up and a lot of people set up to help us navigate through all that and make sure that we aren't missing things that are happening. But it's definitely the hardest part.
I can imagine. So with all this, what do you really attribute your success to? You're very tenacious. Do you think it's some personality traits, hard skills you're bringing to the table?
I think it's determination, sheer determination. And I think it's, I think my parents used to always say that, I was never like a super great student, but that I was always very street smart, was what they said. And I think that I've always had this scrappiness about me where, I will figure something out and no matter what it takes. And I think that's kind of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and embark on something like this. You kind of can't take no for an answer, and you have to have a certain amount of confidence. And that has certainly changed for me over the years. I think when we started, I wasn't nearly as confident as I am now. But you have to sometimes blindly believe in what you're doing so that you can kind of, block out all the noise and all the people who are telling you it isn't a good idea. But making smart decisions and surrounding yourself with smart people. In my case, my brother, who's always been my best friend, was really my business partner and my everything to talk about all this with. And I think that you just, you have to kind of believe in yourself and know that you can do it. I mean, and be open to learn. And again, something Barbara said, it's like you have to be okay to take opinions from other people. And I think that's something I've had to learn too, is that, you can't, not being defensive and being open to other people's, feedbacks and suggestions, it's a hard skill to learn, because this is like my baby, and so I don't want anybody to tell me that it's not perfect. But you have to be open to that feedback as well to grow.
And I think that's all we have time for. Please help me thank Alli for being here today. Thank you.